She was programmed to fear humans, but one touch rewrote everything she was. This is HFY Vanguard, where biology meets destiny, and desire changes the stars. The shuttle pierced through Earth's upper atmosphere like a silver spear, its hull glowing orange from re-entry. Beyond the viewport, a planet of storms and scars sprawled beneath green continents, divided by vast oceans and the faint smudge of orbital debris from a war that had ended only 3 years ago. Inside the craft, Inala Tinari stood near the exit ramp, her gloved fingers brushing the control rail to steady herself against the gravity she still wasn't used to. Earth was heavy, every step felt like walking through invisible chains. Yet she had been trained for this. As a Selenite ambassador, she carried the burden of representing a species still whispered about in military briefings as the enemy. The landing struts touched down with a muted tremor. A hiss of hydraulics followed as the shuttle bay doors split open, spilling out cool recycled air into the heat of the new American desert. Fort Armstrong stood before her, a fortress of steel and dust banners fluttering beneath the sun. Human soldiers moved with precision, their eyes darting to the alien woman descending the ramp. Her skin shimmered deep azure, reflecting streaks of sunlight as if her body absorbed and bent the light around her. Silver-white hair cascaded down her back, contrasting sharply against the turquoise diplomatic uniform that hugged her slender frame. Her eyes, luminous even in the shade, were a pale cerulean that flickered faintly when she breathed in Earth's heavy air. A voice barked from below. "Welcome to Fort Armstrong, Ambassador Tinari." The tone wasn't warm, it was protocol. Anila turned her gaze toward the speaker. The man waiting for her was tall, his build sculpted by military precision. Captain Ryan Harker. The name had already appeared in her mission brief, decorated twice-wounded hero of Proxima Centauri. A soldier forged in a war that pitted her people against his. He stood with his arms crossed, expression unreadable beneath the harsh desert light. His hair was dark blonde, trimmed close on the sides, but just long enough on top to look perpetually disheveled, as if discipline couldn't quite tame him. His eyes, steel gray, sharp and appraising, met hers with the focus of a man trained to see threats before greetings. Captain Harker she greeted with diplomatic calm. Her voice carried a soft melodic cadence, touched by the accent of her native tongue, a blend of music and breath. "It's an honor." "Just doing my job, Ambassador." His voice was clipped dry. "I've been assigned as your liaison. You'll report to me during your stay." The temperature between them dropped several degrees. Anala managed a faint smile, the kind meant to bridge gaps that were not ready to be crossed. "Of course. I appreciate your hospitality. Let's keep things clear," he replied, starting to walk, his boots crunching on gravel. "This isn't about hospitality. The brass thinks a cultural exchange will make people forget the last war. I'm here to make sure you don't get into trouble." "Trouble." The word echoed, edged with suspicion. Anala followed beside him, her stride graceful but deliberate. Around them, soldiers paused their routines, eyes tracking her every movement, some curious, some hostile, some masking unease behind false professionalism. So this is peace, she thought. A silence filled with the ghosts of the fallen. The tour began with the barracks, the training grounds, the vast hangars where aircraft gleamed like predators at rest. Everywhere she went, whispers followed her. That's her. Alien. Blue skin. Your kind, one voice muttered when they passed, too quiet to be called out, too loud to ignore. Harker noticed. "Ignore it," he said without turning. "Most of them have never seen a Selenite up close. Some lost friends in the war. You'll have to give them time." "And you, Captain," she asked softly, "how much time will you need?" He stopped walking. For a heartbeat, the desert wind carried nothing but heat and tension between them. "Battle of Proxima Centauri," he said finally. "I've seen plenty of your kind. Time doesn't change that." Anala's eyes flickered faintly blue, not from anger but from instinct. Selenite biology had its own form of expression. The glow of blue across her irises was a defense signal, an evolutionary warning light meant to blind predators or stun aggressors. But this was faint, a flicker barely visible. Harker noticed anyway. "What was that?" "A reaction," she said evenly, blinking the glow away. "Our bodies respond to hostility." Don't worry, Captain, it takes far more than words to activate it fully. He grunted, unimpressed. Let's hope it stays that way. They reached the mess hall next a vast dome of steel and noise. Human soldiers filled the space with laughter, arguments, and the clatter of metal trays. Yet the moment Anala stepped inside, silence rippled outward. Conversations stopped. Forks froze midair. Even the air seemed to tighten. Harker leaned toward her, muttering low. Don't mind them. Most of these kids still think selenites have fangs. She gave a small, diplomatic nod. And do you? He met her eyes, not the kind that show. A faint curve touched her lips. Then perhaps there's hope for your species after all. For the first time, she saw a glint of something not entirely hostile in his expression, a flicker of humor, reluctant and buried beneath layers of discipline. But it was gone as quickly as it came. Then a sudden alarm shattered the stillness. The sound was deafening, an emergency siren blaring through the facility. Soldiers jumped to their feet. Red lights flashed across the walls. Training drill, Harker said, checking the wrist device on his arm. Nothing to... A thunderous explosion ripped through the air, cutting him off. The shock wave slammed through the mess hall, shattering glass, hurling bodies and debris. Without thinking, Harker lunged toward Anala, tackling her to the floor as the ceiling panels caved in. The impact stole her breath. The smell of metal smoke and human sweat mingled in the chaos. Shards of glass rained down, scattering across the floor like frozen tears. His body covered hers, shielding her from the debris. Her heartbeat thundered beneath him. For a moment, she forgot to breathe. Then something extraordinary happened. Their hands, tangled in the confusion, found each other skin against skin. A surge of energy pulsed through her like a living current. Her pupils dilated. Her pulse spiked. The familiar blue luminescence of danger tried to rise but transformed mid-burst into a soft, luminous pink glow. The hue spread from her eyes, radiating faintly over her skin. It wasn't defensive, it was intimate, warm. Harker froze above her, staring. What the hell? Your eyes... Anala felt heat crawl up her throat. That's not supposed to happen, she whispered, voice trembling. What isn't? She blinked rapidly, forcing the light to dim, but her body betrayed her, every selenite cell resonating in recognition. The term flashed unbidden in her mind, ancient and instinctive. Mate recognition. It had only one meaning in selenite biology: genetic compatibility. The kind that was impossible across species, or so they had believed. As soldiers scrambled to contain the fire and alarms screamed around them, Anala and Harker stayed locked in a silence more profound than the explosion itself. He was the first to speak, voice rough. Ambassador, are you injured? She swallowed, regaining her composure. No, you saved me. He nodded stiffly, pulling himself upright, offering her a hand. Just following orders. When she took it, the contact sent another shock of warmth up her arm. Her pulse refused to calm. Somewhere deep within her, a part of her biology whispered an impossible truth. The human standing before her was the one being in the galaxy her DNA recognized as perfect. And for the first time since she had set foot on this war-scarred planet, her heart was the thing she no longer trusted. Smoke still hung over Fort Armstrong like a wounded storm. The mess hall was in ruins, tables overturned, glass crunching under boots, alarms still wailing in the distance. Outside, the desert sun poured through shattered walls, slicing through the haze like molten gold. Anala stood among the chaos, hands trembling despite her composure. Her turquoise uniform was torn at the shoulder, streaked with soot. Around her, human medics rushed to assist the wounded. Every time one brushed too close, she flinched, not from fear, but from confusion. Her pulse hadn't slowed since the moment Captain Harker's hand touched hers. Across the debris, Harker barked orders, voice sharp and controlled. Evacuate the wounded to the west wing. Secure the perimeter. I want eyes on that adjacent building now. Even amid crisis, he radiated authority, the kind born not of arrogance but necessity. When he turned, his gaze locked on her. Ambassador, are you certain you're unharmed? I'm fine, she said automatically, though her body told a different story. The pink glow still pulsed faintly behind her irises, flickering like embers, refusing to die. Harker frowned. Your eyes. Anala turned away. It's a side effect of stress. He didn't buy it. I've seen selenite's eyes glow blue, never pink. Then you're seeing something new, she said quietly. Before he could respond, a squad commander approached. Captain Command requests you and the ambassador report to the medical bay for decontamination. Understood. Harker motioned for Anala to follow. As they walked, soldiers stepped aside, whispering behind hands. The tension was palpable. She could feel their stares burning into her back, fear, curiosity, mistrust all tangled together. In the sterile corridor leading to the medical wing, she finally spoke. That explosion, it wasn't an accident, was it? No, his tone was grim. Preliminary scans show a contained detonation. Someone planted it. Her steps slowed. An attack. Looks that way. But whether it was aimed at us or just meant to make a point, he left the sentence hanging. They entered the med bay, bright white metallic. Machines hummed softly, the smell of disinfectant thick in the air. A nurse scanned Anala's vitals, but the readings flickered erratically. Her biosignatures fluctuating, the nurse said, frowning. Neural activity spiking. Are you feeling lightheaded, Ambassador? I'm fine, Anala repeated. Harker crossed his arms, watching. She's not fine. Anala shot him a glare that could have frozen plasma. Captain, I said, but her words faltered as another pulse of warmth rolled through her. The air between them seemed to thicken, charged with invisible energy. Harker took an involuntary step closer. Whatever that glow means, it happens when you're near me. Her breath hitched. That's impossible. Then why are your eyes doing it again? She turned sharply away, trying to control her breathing. Calm, focus, suppress the response. But the physiological trigger had already begun. Every selenite cell within her reacted as though to a gravitational pull him. A nearby monitor beeped faster. The nurse blinked at the readings, confused. Her heart rate's rising, drastically. Leave us, a Nala ordered voice cutting through the room like a command. The nurse hesitated, glancing at Harker. He nodded once. You heard her. When the door closed, the silence felt alive. Anala gripped the metal table, her reflection trembling in the polished surface. This is not supposed to happen, she whispered. Not with a human. What is it? Harker asked quietly. She looked at him then, not as an ambassador, but as a woman on the edge of something she couldn't explain. The pink glow brightened again, illuminating her features in a soft, ethereal radiance. In my species, she began slowly. Our eyes glow blue when we perceive danger, fight or flight. But there is another response far rarer. Her voice trembled despite her effort to remain composed. A pink resonance. It signals genetic complementarity, the recognition of an ideal mate. Harker blinked, trying to process it. You're saying your biology thinks we should... He exhaled sharply. Mate. She flinched at the word. I'm saying my body believes we're compatible at a level that shouldn't be possible. Between species, this response has never occurred. Harker's expression shifted between disbelief and something darker. Curiosity, maybe even fear. So what does that make me, Ambassador, a lab anomaly? Or your destiny? She swallowed, pulse racing. Neither. You're an impossibility. He took a slow step forward, closing the distance. And yet here we are. Her breath caught as he stopped inches away. She could feel the heat radiating from him, the faint scent of ozone and sweat from the explosion still clinging to his skin. Her instinct screamed to step back, but the pull between them was magnetic, primal. You shouldn't be near me, she whispered. It'll only make it stronger. Then tell me to leave. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. The air between them hummed. He reached up, slowly brushing a strand of silver hair away from her face. The moment his fingers grazed her skin, the pink glow flared not in her eyes this time, but across her veins like living light. Harker froze. Jesus. Anala shuddered. You don't understand if anyone saw this. Then explain it to me, he said, voice low but urgent, because I'm starting to feel it too. Her gaze shot up, locking with his. Feel what? This, he murmured. Whatever the hell this is. And then the impossible happened again, his pulse synced with hers. The monitors in the room showed 2 heartbeats identical in rhythm. Anala stared at the screen, realization dawning. It's aligning us. What is the response? The more contact, the more synchronization. Our systems are trying to merge. Is that dangerous? For me, she exhaled, trembling. No, for both our governments, extremely. Harker gave a dry, humorless laugh. Figures. Peace treaty barely holds together, and now biology decides to screw with politics. Despite herself, she smiled faintly. Your cynicism is remarkably consistent. He leaned against the table beside her, still watching the soft glow fading from her skin. You said your eyes glow pink when you find an ideal genetic match. How many Selenites ever experience that? Very few. It's considered sacred. The chance of it happening twice in one lifetime is zero. So he said, either the universe has a twisted sense of humor, or fate, she finished softly, has a plan neither of us understand. The words hung between them, fragile and dangerous. Outside, the alarms had stopped. The bass was silent again, but the quiet was deceptive. Both of them knew that once word reached command, this would become more than a curiosity. It would become a weapon or a scandal. A soft chime broke the moment. The comms panel on the wall blinked. Captain Harker, came a voice through the speaker. You're ordered to report to command immediately. Bring the ambassador. Harker met Anala's eyes. Guess they already know. Her heart sank. Then the world's about to find out what pink truly means. As they walked down the corridor toward command, soldiers stared openly now. Rumors had already spread like wildfire. Someone had captured footage of the explosion of Harker shielding her of the glow radiating from her face. In the elevator, she leaned against the wall, whispering almost to herself, It's starting already. The fear. Let them fear, Harker said quietly. Fear changes nothing. What matters is what we do next. She turned her head toward him. And what do you intend to do, Captain? He looked at her for a long moment. Figure out why my pulse still matches yours. The doors opened onto the command floor, dozens of eyes waiting, tension thick enough to taste. Beyond them, the holoscreens already displayed the frozen frame of the footage, a human soldier holding an alien woman as her eyes blazed pink in his arms. The headline beneath it read, Unauthorized Contact Alien Biological Event at Fort Armstrong. Anala exhaled slowly. They'll call me a manipulator. They'll call me compromised. Then we both lose, she whispered. He turned to her, jaw tight. Or we both fight. Her eyes met his, glowing faintly again. Defiance and desire fused into one color. You would stand against your own command. I've been fighting my whole life, he said simply. Maybe it's time I fight for something that actually matters. The words struck something deep inside her, a resonance beyond logic, beyond diplomacy. For the first time, Anala Tinari, envoy of peace and child of the Selenite High Council, realized that the human standing beside her wasn't just a soldier. He was the spark of something her people had forgotten well. And perhaps she thought, as her eyes shimmered pink again, this was how peace truly began, not with treaties, but with two hearts breaking every law written to keep them apart. The council chamber shimmered with cold, crystalline light. The Selenite High Council projected across the comlink like a tribunal of ghosts. Three elder figures hovered in holographic form, their azure faces etched with lines of age and authority. Anala Tinari stood rigid, the pale glow of the transmission painting her skin in cold hues. She'd faced diplomats, generals, even assassins during the war, but never had her composure felt this fragile. Ambassador Tinari intoned Counselor Marin, his voice deep and resonant. We've received disturbing reports. You were present during a detonation at Fort Armstrong and exhibited an unauthorized biological response. Is this true? Anala inhaled slowly. Yes, Counselor. My proximity reflex triggered under extreme duress. Triggered, said Counselor Val, her tone sharp as glass. By a human. The word carried venom. Yes, Anala replied quietly. The three counselors exchanged glances that spoke of both fear and fascination. Counselor Tehran, the eldest, leaned forward. Your report mentions a pink ocular emission. You're aware of its significance. I am. Then you understand the magnitude of this incident, Val said, her eyes narrowing. Such a response has never been documented between species. It raises questions, unacceptable ones. It raises possibilities, Anala countered before she could stop herself. Possibilities lead to instability, Marin said. Instability leads to war. We are ordering your immediate recall to Sullen Prime for examination. Her pulse spiked. With respect, Counselor, that would be a mistake. Val's expression hardened. Defiance, Ambassador. Insight, Anala said evenly. The pink resonance is not a disease or a weapon. It may indicate a biological bridge between our species. If confirmed, it could destroy everything we've built, Val interrupted. Do you imagine the humans will see this as a miracle? They'll see it as manipulation, proof that we can control them on a genetic level. I can control nothing, Anala said, her voice trembling despite her discipline. The reaction was involuntary. You of all people know what that means. The chamber fell silent. Finally, Marin spoke. You will prepare for extraction at dawn. This council will not permit unauthorized experimentation, especially involving a human soldier. The transmission cut abruptly, leaving the room cold and empty. Anala stood alone, her reflection rippling across the dark glass table, eyes faintly glowing pink, despite her effort to suppress it. Control nothing, she whispered bitterly to herself. And yet they think I'm the threat. The door hissed open. Captain Harker stepped inside uninvited. He looked like he hadn't slept, the tension in his posture wound tight as a coiled wire. I heard the council's message, he said. Half the base did, thanks to your fancy open-channel transmission. She exhaled sharply. So much for discretion. They've ordered you home. They have. And she looked up at him. I'm not going. He blinked, almost amused. You just told your government to shove him. In Selenite terms, she said dryly, yes. Harker crossed his arms. They're calling your reaction a biological weapon. My command's calling it a security risk. If either of us disobeys, it's career suicide. Then we're both dying professionally. For a heartbeat silence stretched between them, a silence charged not with awkwardness, but inevitability. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. Tell me the truth. What is this pink light? She hesitated. Then with slow precision, she began to unbutton the cuff of her uniform sleeve, revealing faint bioluminescent veins beneath her skin, glowing pink, then fading. It's not energy, she said softly. It's communication. Selonite cells respond to emotional resonance as much as danger. When I touch someone whose genetic frequency complements mine, the reaction amplifies. It's recognition. Recognition of what? Of potential unity, of offspring that would be stronger, smarter, more balanced. Harker stared, processing the words. So your biology looked at me and decided I'd make good kids. Her lips twitched, the faintest ghost of a smile. Crude but accurate. He shook his head, half laughing in disbelief. This is insane. It is, she admitted, and yet here we are. He leaned back against the table, rubbing a hand across his jaw. So what happens if you ignore it, pretend it didn't happen? She looked away. The resonance fades, but leaves a scar. Selenites who resist the bond often experience neural collapse or emotional deterioration. His eyes softened. And if you don't resist, Anala's voice was barely a whisper, the bond deepens. Harker stepped closer, his voice dropping. Define deepens. Her breath caught. Thought sharing, emotional synchronization, physical sensitivity beyond any human metric. He smirked faintly. Sounds dangerous. It is, she said, meeting his gaze, because it creates loyalty no government can control. Something in her tone, the defiance, the quiet fire, struck him deeper than he expected. So let me get this straight, he said. You're being recalled. I'm under investigation. And if we stay near each other, we'll start thinking the same thoughts. She nodded. Then maybe that's exactly what they're afraid of. Her pulse jumped. Ryan. It was the first time she'd said his name. The first time it sounded less like diplomacy and more like a confession. He froze as if the sound itself hit him harder than any explosion. Say that again. She hesitated, then Ryan. The air between them seemed to change, softer, closer. He took another step forward. What are you afraid of, Anala? She tried to speak, but the words tangled with her breath. This isn't supposed to happen. Not with you. Why not? Because I've spent my life believing humans were incomplete, violent, reckless. He smiled faintly. And now? Her eyes glowed again, bright and vulnerable. Now I'm not so sure. The distance between them vanished. He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. When his hand cupped her cheek, the pink glow intensified, spreading across her skin in intricate living patterns like constellations blooming under her surface. Your skin, he murmured. It's beautiful. Please, she whispered, trembling. Don't make this harder. Harder than what? Than pretending we're still enemies. Her breath hitched as his thumb brushed her lower lip, a simple gesture. But her whole body reacted like it had been struck by lightning. And then he kissed her. It wasn't the cautious brush of curiosity. It was the desperate, reckless meeting of two worlds that had been taught to hate each other. For a moment, the universe shrank to the space between them. Warm breath, racing hearts, the mingling of pink and blue light that painted the walls around them like a living aurora. When they finally pulled apart, both were trembling. That, Harker said hoarsely, is going to make every political nightmare I've ever had look tame. Enola smiled, the faint glow softening. Then perhaps we should be discreet. Discreet, he laughed quietly. There's a camera right there. Her head snapped up. The tiny red light blinked in the corner of the room. Her voice dropped to a whisper. How long has it been recording? Long enough, he said grimly. They stared at each other, realization sinking in. Somewhere someone was already watching. Too late to stop it now, she said quietly. Then we decide what it means, he replied. Her gaze softened. You really think we can control this? He stepped forward again, the corner of his mouth curving. No, but maybe we can define it before they do. For a heartbeat, their eyes met blue and pink logic and instinct, and for the first time since the war ended, neither cared which color would win. Outside, across the stars, two governments were already preparing damage reports and disciplinary orders. Inside that small, sterile room, something far more dangerous had been declared: not war, not peace, but the birth of a bond forbidden by both. And in that forbidden moment, Anala Tinari stopped being an ambassador. She became something far rarer, the first selenite to fall for a human. The footage sprayed faster than any virus. By the time morning broke, the image of Captain Ryan Harker kissing Ambassador Anala Tinari had circled half the galaxy. The scandal dominated every network feed. Human-alien liaison compromised in private contact. A court at risk, selenite, biological weapon, or interspecies affair. Governments scrambled. Diplomats panicked. And in the middle of it all, Ryan and Anala were flown under armed escort to New Geneva, the gleaming neutral city built to symbolize the fragile peace between their species. They were supposed to arrive as suspects. They would soon become something much more dangerous. The transport shuttle descended through the bright latticework of orbital defenses surrounding the city. From above, New Geneva looked like a diamond set in ice crystalline towers rising from snow-white plains, the architecture blending human steel with selenite-like glass. Inside the cabin, Ryan sat opposite Anala, cuffs gleaming around his wrists, a political show of restraint. She, however, was unshackled, her diplomatic status still protecting her for now. They hadn't spoken since the incident. The silence between them pulsed louder than any alarm. Finally, Ryan broke it. You think this was an accident? Anala's gaze didn't lift from the window. The leak number, someone wanted this to happen, someone who fears what we represent. He studied her face, calm, composed, but her hands trembled faintly against her knees. You mean your counsel? And your command, she said, meeting his eyes. The fear isn't one-sided. The shuttle jolted as it touched down on the landing pad. Outside, a line of soldiers waited. Reporters too, dozens of them held back by security drones' lenses, glinting like hungry eyes. Ready for the cameras, Ryan muttered. Diplomacy is theater, she said. Let's give them a show worth remembering. They were escorted into a marble hall surrounded by floating holoscreens, each broadcasting their arrival. General Blackwell, head of Earth's Joint Command, stood at one end of the chamber, his uniform immaculate. Beside him waited Ambassador Loren, the senior selenite envoy, tall, older, his skin a darker shade of cobalt, his expression unreadable. The tension could have cracked glass. Blackwell's voice thundered across the hall. Do you understand what you've started, Captain? Ryan stood straight, eyes forward. Sir, that footage has been viewed by half of Command. Blackwell continued, and analyzed by every intelligence agency from here to Mars. You've turned a classified interaction into a diplomatic incident of historic proportions. Beside him, Loren's tone was cooler but no less cutting. And you, Ambassador Tinari, your counsel demands an explanation. Pink resonance between species has no precedent. Many believe it to be staged. Inala's chin lifted. Then they misunderstand biology. Blackwell's gaze flicked between them. Enough riddles. You two will give us answers. Privately. The door sealed behind them in a smaller chamber lined with soundproof glass. Blackwell leaned forward. Start talking. Ryan exhaled slowly. The explosion at Fort Armstrong wasn't random. Someone tried to kill her. That's a convenient theory, Loren said, especially after the footage that followed. Convenient, Ryan shot back. You think I plan to become a galactic meme? Then what do you think happened? The selenite pressed. Anala answered before Ryan could. It wasn't sabotage for attention. It was sabotage for division. Someone on both sides wants this alliance destroyed, and they used me, us, as the trigger. Blackwell crossed his arms. And you can prove this. She hesitated. Not yet. Then you're both lucky neither government wants a public trial, the general said. You're being reassigned. Reassigned, Ryan echoed. Lauren nodded. To the Joint Cultural Exchange Initiative. Effective immediately. Ryan stared at him. You're making us diplomats. No, Lauren corrected smoothly. We're making you symbols. Your connection will serve as evidence that peace is possible. A spectacle the media can digest. Anala felt her stomach tighten. You're using us. Welcome to politics, Blackwell said. That night, in the sterile luxury of their assigned quarters, Ryan poured 2 glasses of human whiskey. The room overlooked the snowy city, its skyline glowing with blue and gold lights. To survival, he said, dryly handing her a glass. Anala eyed the amber liquid suspiciously. I've studied human customs. Alcohol dulls cognitive function. Exactly what we need. She sipped, coughed, and set the glass down. I fail to see the appeal. He chuckled. It grows on you. Silence settled again, heavier than before. Outside, drones drifted past the window, silent watchers. They're not going to stop watching us, she said. I know. And you're not afraid. He met her gaze. Of them, no. Of you, maybe. Her lips curved. Then we're both honest. He stepped closer, the faint reflection of city lights flickering in her eyes. You ever think about what happens if this keeps going? Her voice softened. Every second. And I keep deciding not to stop. His breath caught not from surprise but recognition. They were no longer soldiers or diplomats. They were something far more dangerous, 2 people who refused to obey fear. The next morning, they stood side by side at the Interspecies Peace Summit, a stage built for spectacle, surrounded by hundreds of delegates, journalists, and soldiers. The world's eyes, human and selenite alike, were on them. Dr. Eliza Norton, the human moderator, smiled for the cameras. Today's discussion focuses on bridging cultural divides. We are honored to welcome Captain Ryan Harker and Ambassador Anala Tinari, living proof that unity between our species is possible. Polite applause rippled through the room. Ryan leaned toward Anala, whispering, Living proof, huh? Funny I don't feel alive right now. Then pretend she murmured back. Humans are good at that. Norton turned to her. Ambassador, your biological response has become a matter of great public interest. Could you explain its meaning? Anala rose graceful as a tide. Selenites possess 2 forms of ocular resonance, she said clearly. Blue, which signals danger, and pink, a much rarer response. It indicates biological harmony, recognition of a compatible genetic counterpart. Gasps and murmurs filled the hall. Norton smiled carefully. And this reaction occurred with Captain Harker. It did, Anala said simply, an occurrence once thought impossible. All eyes shifted to Ryan. He straightened, voice firm. If that's true, then maybe we've been wrong about more than just biology. Meaning, Norton asked. Meaning maybe we're not as different as we like to believe. The room stirred whispers, turning into ripples of conversation. Then, without warning, a selenite aide approached the stage carrying 2 glasses of crystalline liquid. Compliments of the organizing committee, she said. Anala accepted hers politely, but Ryan's instincts screamed. As the aide turned away, he discreetly scanned the drink with a small device hidden in his palm. His jaw tightened. Contaminated, he murmured. Biological agent. Anala's eyes flashed blue, the defensive glow activating instantly. It would trigger an immune flare, make me appear hostile. They're trying to make it look like you see humans as threats, he said grimly. She met his gaze. Then let's give them a show they'll regret. When they returned to the stage, the audience waited for another diplomatic platitude. Instead, Ryan stepped forward and placed his scanner on the table. This, he said loudly, is what happens when peace threatens power. The device projected the molecular analysis of the toxin across the hall's main screen. This drink was laced with a selenite biological agent designed to trigger a visible reaction and sabotage this alliance. The crowd erupted. Anala raised her voice above the noise. We have evidence of a conspiracy spanning both governments, those who profit from our separation. She activated a hidden device of her own. The voices of Counselor Val and an unknown human general filled the air. We'll disrupt the bonding. The human will think she sees him as a threat. Perfect. Their governments will turn on each other. Chaos broke out. Security forces surged toward the exits, but it was too late. The truth was live across every channel. Ryan reached for her hand, his voice low but firm. They wanted fear. Let's give them something else. Anala turned toward him. The lights caught her eyes, blue and pink, intertwining into violet, glowing softly for all to see. This, she said, her voice steady, is not a weapon. It's proof that understanding is possible. The hall fell silent. The camera zoomed in two figures hand in hand, eyes glowing in unison, standing defiant before the storm. Ryan squeezed her fingers. Together. Always, she whispered. For a heartbeat, the entire hall forgot their divisions. Then thunderous applause erupted, hesitant at first, then unstoppable. Backstage, as security escorted them out, Ryan murmured, "You just painted a target on both our backs." She smiled faintly. "Then we'll have to move faster than the ones aiming at us." "Where to?" "Luna Base," she said. "It's where both our governments will send us next, a secure facility." "You mean a cage?" "Sometimes," she said softly, "you have to enter the cage to find the key." As they disappeared into the waiting transport, flashes from journalist cameras illuminated their faces. The human soldier and the alien ambassador, who had just changed the course of two civilizations. Neither of them noticed the shadow watching from the upper balcony, Counselor Val, her eyes cold as ice, whispering into a hidden communicator. "Initiate the Luna Protocol. They'll never make it out alive." The shuttle cut through the void in silence, a silver arrow aimed at the pale crescent of the moon. Inside, Captain Ryan Harker and Ambassador Anala Tinari sat strapped into opposite seats, the hum of the engines the only sound between them. Officially, they were being transported to Luna Base Theta, a secure facility for joint security debriefing. Unofficially, everyone on board knew what it really was: containment. The crew avoided looking at them. The air carried the tension of two people who had upended the galaxy's most delicate piece and survived long enough to terrify everyone in power. Ryan stared out the viewport, jaw clenched. The gray face of the moon loomed larger with every passing minute. "You ever been there?" he asked finally. Anala shook her head. "No, Selenites avoid the moon. We consider it haunted." "Haunted. Not by ghosts," she said softly. "By history." Luna Base Theta awaited like a silver scar against the endless gray, a network of domes and spires half buried beneath lunar dust. The moment they disembarked, an armed escort surrounded them. No greetings, no smiles, just silent procedure. Their assigned quarters were pristine, sterile, a cell pretending to be a suite. One observation window looked out across the barren horizon where Earth hung in the black sky, blue and distant. As soon as the guards left, Ryan began scanning the room with a handheld detector. "3 bugs, 2 cameras," he muttered. "These guys aren't even trying to hide them. Almost as if they want us to know we're being watched," Anala said, pacing slowly. He glanced up. "You think they're baiting us?" "I think," she said, "they're afraid of what we might discover." Hours passed in silence, broken only by the steady hiss of recycled air. Ryan sat on the edge of the bed, boots planted firmly, while Anala stood at the terminal, her fingers moving gracefully across the glowing interface. "I've accessed the base's internal archive," she said. "Most of it's mundane logistics, cargo records, maintenance schedules." She stopped suddenly. "But there's something else. A restricted folder, dated 50 years ago." Ryan moved beside her. "What's inside?" "Archaeological reports. Excavations beneath the moon's south pole." He frowned. "Archaeology here." Anala opened one of the encrypted files. Text and images flooded the screen, crumbling corridors carved into lunar stone walls covered in alien glyphs. Ryan felt his stomach tighten. "Those markings, they're not human." "No," she said. "They're Selonite, but older than any record we have. Thousands of years older." "That's impossible. Humans didn't even have space travel until the 22nd century. Anala's eyes narrowed. "And yet your command and my High Council co-signed the order to bury this." She highlighted the final entry. "Project Lunar Unity, classified by Joint Decree Year 2237. "Unity," Ryan murmured. That word again. Anala turned to him, her expression unreadable. "My people's oldest myths speak of a unity between worlds, a time when Selenites and another species shared one fate under the same moon. We thought it allegory." Maybe it wasn't. A soft chime interrupted them, an incoming transmission. The screen flickered to life, revealing the lined face of an elderly human scientist. "Captain Harker, Ambassador Tinari," he said quickly. "My name is Dr. Joseph Pratt. chief archaeologist of the original Luna excavation. I don't have much time. They're monitoring everything. Ryan leaned forward. We were just reading your files. Then you know too much already, Pratt said. Listen carefully. The ruins under this base are proof that humans and Selenites once lived together. We found temples, depictions of families shared technology, even hybrid children. Inala's pulse quickened. Hybrid? That's not possible. It was, Pratt said, until both governments erased it. They feared what unity meant: no more control through difference. The war between your species wasn't born of hatred, Captain. It was engineered. Ryan felt the blood drain from his face. You're saying they started the war on purpose? Population control, economic reset, power. Pratt's voice grew thinner, static creeping in. They'll kill to keep this buried. There's a maintenance shaft behind your bathroom's environmental panel. It leads to the old excavation site. Supplies and a comlink are hidden there. Go now before tomorrow. The transmission cut off. A moment later, alarms blared throughout the base. Security lockdown, Ryan said, already on his feet. They know. Inala ripped open the environmental panel. Beneath the vent filters, a narrow tunnel yawned into darkness. She looked at him, ready, always. They crawled through the maintenance shaft, the sound of boots pounding somewhere above them. The tunnel was cramped and cold, lit only by the faint bioluminescence from Inala's skin. Her glow pulsed softly with every breath, a rhythm of determination. When they finally emerged, they found themselves in a cavern, unlike anything human or Selenite architecture had ever produced. Massive columns rose into the shadows. Symbols glowed faintly along the walls, ancient yet familiar. Inala touched one with trembling fingers. These glyphs, they combine both languages. Human structure, Selenite form. Meaning, she smiled faintly. Meaning we built this place together. They moved deeper. Dust lay thick over long-abandoned equipment, the remnants of the old excavation team. A row of shattered data tablets glimmered like fossils. At the cavern's center stood a mural carved into the rock, a depiction of two figures standing hand in hand beneath twin moons. One clearly human, the other unmistakably Selenite. Their joined hands emitted light carved into the stone itself, pink and blue merging into violet. Ryan exhaled slowly. It's us. Inala's voice was barely a whisper. Not us, our ancestors. Beneath the mural, ancient script shimmered faintly as her proximity triggered hidden sensors. The translation appeared across her wrist device. When the light of danger meets the light of love, the world will remember what it once was. The words sent a chill down Ryan's spine. They predicted this. Inala turned toward him, her eyes glowing softly in the dark. Or maybe were the echo. A sudden noise echoed behind them, footsteps, weapons clattering. Move, Ryan grabbed her hand. They sprinted down a side corridor, the tunnel walls vibrating with distant explosions as security forces breached the entrance. They reached a circular chamber where a raised platform waited, a dais of polished stone, etched with two handprints, one human, one Selenite. It's the same symbol from the mural, Inala breathed. Ryan glanced back. If this opens something, now's the time. She placed her hand on the Selenite imprint. He placed his on the human one. The stone came alive. A pulse of energy surged through them both, flooding their senses. Ryan gasped as visions cascaded through his mind, cities of silver and light humans, and Selenites walking side by side, their children laughing under twin suns. He saw their downfall too, the leaders who feared unity, the lies that split one species into two, rewriting history itself. Inala's voice trembled. I see it, all of it. We were never enemies. Ryan gritted his teeth as the images faded. We were one people, and they tore us apart. As the light dimmed, the floor beneath the dais shifted, revealing a narrow descent, spiraling deeper into the moon's core. A voice, mechanical yet ancient, resonated through the chamber. Genetic resonance confirmed, access granted. Inala met his gaze, breathless. It recognizes us. Then we're going down. They descended the staircase, the air humming with faint vibration. The deeper they went, the stronger the energy became, wrapping around them like an invisible heartbeat. When they reached the bottom, they stood before a crystalline archway pulsing with violet light. Through it lay a vast chamber, the Unity Vault. Inside, a suspended hologram displayed DNA helixes intertwining, one human, one Selenite. Beneath it, an inscription in both languages read, Two halves once torn apart. When they meet again, the stars shall awaken. Anala's eyes glowed brighter, reflecting the violet radiance. Ryan, this isn't just archaeology. It's destiny encoded in biology. He reached for her hand, their fingers locking together. Then maybe fate finally found its match. Behind them, distant gunfire echoed down the tunnels. They're coming, he said. Then they'll see, she whispered, turning toward the hologram. They'll all see. As the chamber filled with rising light, Ryan realized something deeper than discovery had just begun. Not only the truth of the past, but the awakening of what they could become. And above the silent moon, Earth turned slowly, unaware that beneath its reflection, the greatest secret of both species had just been reborn. The Unity Vault pulsed with living light. The air vibrated softly, humming in rhythm with their heartbeat, or perhaps the heartbeat of something older than both species. Ryan Harker stood at the center of the chamber, breathing hard, his hands still clasped in Anala Tanari's. Around them, the walls shimmered with glyphs, shifting in real time, rewriting themselves as if acknowledging the presence of their new guests. This place, Ryan murmured, it's reacting to us. Anala's silver-white hair shimmered in the radiance, her eyes glowing a steady violet, the perfect fusion of her blue and pink. She nodded slowly. The legends called it the bonding chamber. Our ancestors used it to awaken shared potential. Potential for what? Unity, she whispered. Not political, not symbolic, biological. Emerging of mind and instinct. The holographic display in the center flared, projecting the intertwined helixes higher, then splitting them apart to reveal twin hand symbols, one human, one selenite. Anala stepped forward. They left instructions. Ryan frowned. You think we should? Yes, she said simply. We finished what they began. They approached the pedestal together. The carvings pulsed with soft light as they placed their palms against the ancient symbols. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the world exploded into color. A surge of energy shot up their arms, electric liquid, divine. Their minds flooded with images not their own. Mountains of crystal cities under alien skies. Humans and selenites working side by side, their children glowing with faint bioluminescence. The first ship leaving a blue planet and a silver moon together, united, not divided. Ryan gasped, clutching the edge of the dais. They were one civilization. Anala's voice trembled with awe, separated by fear by those who wanted control. The light grew brighter, wrapping around them both until the physical world dissolved. They stood inside a shared vision, not quite reality, not quite dream, a place where memory became space and thought became gravity. She turned to him. Do you see it? He nodded, dazed. I see everything you feel. And he did. He felt the way her heart raced, not just from fear, but from the impossible nearness of him. He felt her curiosity, her discipline, the thousand unspoken questions that made her who she was. At the same time, she felt the soldier's instincts, the scars buried under his calm exterior, the loneliness he'd worn like armor. Their minds touched and then merged. They came back to themselves, gasping. The chamber had changed. Every surface now pulsed in rhythm with their combined heartbeat. Their eyes, his glowing blue, hers pink, had synchronized into the same luminous violet. Ryan looked down at his hands. Energy coursed through his skin, faint blue tendrils crackling around his fingers. What the hell? Anala stepped forward, glowing faintly herself. Your physiology is adapting to mine. Adapting. You're channeling selenite energy pathways, she said, voice trembling with wonder. You shouldn't be able to, and yet your cells are replicating my neural conductivity. He tested it instinctively, raising his hand toward the cavern wall. The blue current leapt outward, striking the surface with a flash that left molten streaks in the rock. Ryan's eyes widened. That was me. Anala smiled faintly. No, that was us. She closed her eyes and Ryan felt something stir within him, not physically but psychically. Images, words, sensations that weren't his flowed through his mind. He saw through her eyes, felt the pull of her heartbeat as if it were his own. He staggered, slightly disoriented. Anala, I can hear your thoughts. Her lips curved in quiet amazement. And I yours. They stood there breathing as one minds overlapping, an impossible symphony of two species resonating on the same frequency. Telepathic connection, she whispered. The final stage of selenite bonding. I never believed it existed. Ryan looked at her, awe softening his voice. We're living proof it does. The ancient hologram flickered again, projecting an image of humanoid figures, human and selenite pairs surrounded by light. A voice ancient and genderless filled the air. When the two become one, the cycle begins anew. Danger and desire, reason and instinct united, they will awaken the path once sealed. Inala's breath hitched. They engineered our species as complements evolution by division, two halves designed to reunite. Ryan frowned. You're saying we were made for this? Maybe not by chance, she said. Maybe by design. The floor beneath them trembled suddenly. Distant explosions echoed from the tunnels above. Ryan's soldier instincts flared. They found us. Anala's eyes flared bright blue. Security teams, both human and selenite. They're coming to eliminate the evidence. He clenched his fists, energy sparking around him. Then they'll get a show they'll never forget. The first squad burst into the chamber, 3 humans, 2 selenites, weapons drawn. Hands up, one soldier shouted. Ryan stepped forward, the blue glow in his veins intensifying. You don't want to do this. The selenite soldiers froze, eyes widening as Anala's gaze locked on theirs, her violet glow radiating power and calm. You feel it too, she said softly. The resonance. You know this is real. But the human commander snarled fire. The chamber erupted in chaos. Ryan's instincts took over. He raised his hand and the surge of selenite energy burst outward, forming a translucent barrier that deflected incoming plasma bolts. Anala moved beside him in perfect sync, her gestures anticipating his like a dance. He drew a sidearm and returned fire not to kill, but to disable. She followed with an energy pulse that sent 2 attackers sprawling. For the first time, human and selenite fought as one. Their movements were seamless, her telepathic awareness feeding him reactions before his own reflexes triggered them. A human soldier shouted, "He's using alien power." And she's fighting like a human, cried a selenite in disbelief. Anala's voice rang out, amplified by the chamber's acoustics. We are what both our species were meant to become. When the last soldier fell unconscious, silence filled the vault. Ryan and Anala stood back to back, breathing heavily. Are you hurt? He asked. She shook her head, her hair glowing faintly under the violet light. No, but they'll send more. He looked toward the dais. Then we use this place to our advantage. Before she could respond, the hologram above them shifted, displaying new text, the ancient system recognizing their victory. Genetic link complete. Legacy protocol initiated. The chamber walls began to shift, opening passageways deeper into the lunar bedrock. Ryan stared in disbelief. It's opening something. Anala's tone turned reverent. The inner archives, what they tried to hide from us. A faint voice crackled through the comm unit left by Dr. Pratt. You did it. The bonding chamber is active. Follow the light. The truth is waiting. They followed the glowing corridor, their steps echoing softly in the vast silence. Along the walls were more murals, scenes of humans and selenites together defending against an unseen cosmic threat. Figures wielding both blue and pink light, warriors of balance. Ryan stopped. They weren't just partners. They were protectors. Anala nodded slowly. Guardians of unity. When our kind split, that protection was lost. Then maybe we're supposed to bring it back. Her hand found his, together. As they reached the chamber's end, a massive crystal stood before them, pulsating like a living heart. The inscription beneath read, Only the bonded may awaken the inheritance. Ryan looked at her. You ready? She smiled faintly. For the first time in my life, yes. They placed their hands against the crystal. Light engulfed them, brighter than anything they had ever seen. Their minds expanded outward, beyond thought, beyond body. They felt star systems, entire civilizations stretching through their connection. In that moment, they understood the bond wasn't just biological, it was cosmic. It wasn't about love or diplomacy, it was evolution remembering itself. When the light faded, they stood transformed, stronger, connected, their senses alive with new awareness. Ryan could feel her heartbeat even without touching her. Anala could taste the air he exhaled. The galaxy suddenly seemed smaller and infinitely more dangerous. They looked at each other, silent but certain. Ryan broke the quiet with a crooked smile. So, now what? Anala's eyes gleamed violet. Now we survived long enough to tell the truth. From above, the sound of new explosions echoed, reinforcements inbound. Ryan drew his weapon. Let them come. She stepped beside him, energy flaring in her palms. They'll learn what unity really means. And as the ancient bonding chamber blazed to life, two beings, one human, one Selonite, stood ready to defend not just each other, but the forgotten promise of their ancestors. For the first time in millennia, the galaxy had its bonded pair again, and their light was only beginning to rise. The moon trembled. Luna Base Theta was dying not from war, but from revelation. The power awakened in the bonding chamber surged through every wall, every data core, every network line. What had been hidden for centuries now screamed to be seen. Ryan Harker and Anala Tenari emerged from the tunnels, the violet glow still shimmering faintly from their eyes and skin. Security teams had long fled the quake, their panic echoing through the comm channels. Above them, alarms wailed like the howls of a dying empire. Ryan's voice was steady. Transmissions live. You ready? Anala touched the device recovered from Dr. Pratt's cache. Its signal pulsed, connecting to every open relay on Earth and Cellon Prime. When we activate this, there's no going back. Good, he said. I'm done going back. She smiled faintly, then pressed her palm to the console. The chamber's data crystal, now linked to the world's networks, erupted in light. Across the galaxy, every major news feed flickered, replaced by images of ancient murals, genetic data, and holographic recordings of the long-buried Unity Vault. The truth that both governments had buried was now streaming live to billions. Humans and Selenites were once one, so the war was a lie, and the two who rediscovered the truth were alive. Inside the crumbling base, General Blackwell's face appeared on Ryan's comm feed, crackling with static. Harker, what the hell have you done? Ryan met his gaze without flinching. What you never had the courage to. Harker, this isn't the way. It's the only way. No more secrets, no more manipulation. The people deserve the truth. Behind the general chaos reigned aides shouting comm lines, burning military orders, collapsing. You've just started a political war, Blackwell barked. Ryan's voice turned cold. No, sir, I just ended one. He cut the transmission. Explosions rumbled above as Selenite and human forces, confused, leaderless, turned on each other again. The old programming of fear hadn't yet died. Anala looked up, anguish shadowing her luminous features. They're killing each other again. Even after everything. Ryan's voice was rough but firm. Then we stop them the only way they'll understand together. She nodded once, then let's make them see. They emerged from the shattered base onto the lunar surface. Earth loomed above, fragile, brilliant, unaware of the revolution beginning beneath its light. Dozens of ships hovered overhead, human gunships and Selenite interceptors locked in a tense orbit standoff. Ryan switched to open broadcast. This is Captain Ryan Harker of Earth's Joint Command. I'm speaking directly to every fleet commander and planetary channel. He glanced at Anala. She met his eyes and spoke in her own tongue, her voice carried through Selenite frequencies. And I am Ambassador Anala Tenari of Cellon Prime. Hear our words. Their voices merged, translated, and rebroadcast across all frequencies. The war you fought, the peace you fear, both were built on lies. Our people share one origin, one legacy. We were divided by those who profited from fear. We have seen the truth in the bonding chamber. The ancient unity wasn't a myth, it was our beginning. For a moment, the stars themselves seemed to hold their breath. Ryan reached for Anala's hand, raising it into the camera's frame. We are proof that division is weakness, that unity, real unity, is power. Anala's eyes glowed brighter, the violet hue spilling through her tears. Look at us. We are not weapons. We are what our ancestors were meant to become. Behind them, Luna Base collapsed in a storm of light. A violet flare burst upward, painting the lunar horizon, a signal visible even from Earth. Billions looked up that night and saw it, a bloom of color across the moon's surface, neither explosion nor illusion, but something entirely new. Hours later, the fleet stood down. The Selenite Council, fractured in panic, tried to recall their warships. Earth's command froze all countermeasures. In confusion and fear, something miraculous happened. No one fired the next shot. Instead, transmissions began flooding both governments, soldiers and civilians, scientists and citizens speaking the same words again and again. We saw the light. We saw the proof. Let them speak. By dawn, the ceasefire had become a movement. Weeks passed in a blur. Ryan and Anala were summoned not as prisoners but as witnesses to stand before a joint tribunal in New Geneva. For the first time in history, the chamber held equal numbers of human and selenite representatives. The audience filled every seat. Press drones hovered overhead. Anala stood at the center, calm and radiant. Ryan stood beside her, his posture soldier straight, but eyes burning with conviction. Dr. Pratt, now publicly vindicated, presented the findings: genetic overlays proving shared ancestry, synchronized DNA markers, even ancient selenite genetic coding within human genomes. Blackwell, his voice stripped of anger, finally said, "Then everything we built, the fear, the hatred, it was all a manipulation." Ryan nodded. "And now we choose what to build next." The council fell silent. Then Ambassador Loren, the elder Selenite, who had once condemned Anala, rose to his feet. His deep voice carried across the hall. "Perhaps," he said slowly, "it is time to admit our ancestors were wiser than we. Division kept us alive, but unity may help us live." He turned toward Anala and Ryan. "What do you propose?" Ryan spoke first. "A new coalition, not of governments, but of people, human and selenite, trained together, learning together, building together. Soldiers, scientists, artists, a rebirth of the unity." Anala stepped forward, her voice steady and luminous. "And not through conquest or blood, but through shared truth. We will not be made enemies again." The hall erupted, not in chaos this time, but applause. History shifted in that sound. Months later, under the twin flags of Earth and Ceylon Prime construction, began on the Unity Citadel, a new city orbiting between both worlds, built from human steel and selenite light glass, just as the ancient murals had shown. Ryan and Anala lived quietly within its founding colony, often away from the cameras. They trained the first joint officers. They mediated the first integrated schools. And sometimes when the nights were quiet and the stars felt close, they simply held each other in the soft violet glow that now symbolized hope across the galaxy. One evening on their balcony overlooking the newborn city, Anala's hand brushed her abdomen, a soft protective gesture. Ryan noticed instantly. "You're smiling," he said. "I'm changing," she admitted, her voice trembling with wonder. "It's happening." He froze, realization dawning. "You mean?" She nodded, tears glimmering. "A child." He stepped closer, his hand covering hers. "A child of both worlds." "Of all worlds," she whispered. The violet light between them pulsed softly, almost like a heartbeat. 9 months later, the galaxy stopped for a single broadcast. From the Unity Citadel, Anala appeared on the holonet holding a newborn, wrapped in a luminescent cloth. Ryan stood beside her, his arm around her shoulders. She spoke softly, but every channel across human and selenite space carried her words. "This is Lyra. She is human and selenite, both proof that the stars remember what we tried to forget. Her eyes will glow blue when danger comes, and pink when she finds her perfect match. But above all, she will see the world in violet, the color of unity." Ryan kissed her temple, his voice steady but full of emotion. "For 1,000 years, our kind fought for survival. From now on, we fight for each other." The crowd in New Geneva wept and cheered. The image of the glowing infant spread across every screen, every city, every world. And somewhere deep in the ruins of Luna Base Theta, the ancient crystal pulsed once more, faintly, rhythmically, as if acknowledging the next chapter of the story it had started millennia ago. That night, as Anala drifted to sleep, Ryan whispered softly to her, "Do you think she'll ever understand what we went through?" Anala smiled faintly. "She won't need to. She'll feel it in her blood." He watched her in the dim light, her metallic skin glowing faintly pink, the child resting between them. Her eyes fluttered open just once more. "You know," she murmured, "our daughter will have your stubbornness." "And your fire," he replied. She smiled sleepily. "Then the galaxy is doomed." He laughed quietly, kissing her forehead. "Or saved." Outside, the stars shone brighter, as if leaning closer to witness the first night of a new age. Epilogue. Centuries later, in classrooms across human and selenite colonies, children would learn how the violet light appeared on the moon the night two enemies remembered they were one. They would study the names Harker and Tanari not as scandal or myth, but as founders of the second unity, the pair who turned forbidden love into the evolution of a species. And whenever danger threatened, legend said the stars themselves would shimmer faintly violet, the color of the bond that once saved the galaxy. Because even across centuries, one truth remained: her eyes would glow blue in danger, and pink when she found her perfect match. And together they would light the stars again.